and welcome to Veg Around the World with me, Meenakshi Garodia, where I believe in simple recipes, authentic taste. In this show, we discover the vegetarian cuisine of one country at a time. Today, the country we are exploring is Thailand. Thailand is in Southeast Asia, and a lot of people would know where it is, but the food is extremely influenced by the countries around it. You have India, Burma, China. They all bring in their different indigenous flavors to the country. Now, Thai food has 5 fundamentals: sweet, spicy, sour, bitter, and salty. And very often you feel like maybe they're just putting a little bit of everything, but it's really complicated because you need to get the right mix of each of those flavors in whatever dish you're making to get it just right. Now, Thailand is actually a very interesting country. It is one of the only countries in Southeast Asia that was never colonized. And it had a very important role during World War II. And it had a very important role between the British and the French, who were some of the dominant powers there. But that reflects in the culture. The food has pretty much stayed unadulterated by Western influences. Also, rice is a big staple in Thailand. Rice, coconut milk, fruit, all of these really play a big rich role in the food. The food we're making today, it's going to be starting off with the appetizer of fried tofu with a spicy peanut sauce, followed by green curry and rice. And for dessert, we have this is such a simple dessert, but it's so easy to make. It's lychees and bananas, cooked lychees and bananas in a sweet coconut sauce. And we're going to have that accompanied with some Thai iced tea. So let's get started. I'm going to start with, again, I always like to do the things that take the longest first. So I'm going to start with the Thai curry. And we're going to start with the Thai curry, the peanut sauce, and take it from there. For the Thai curry, you can actually, we're making green curry. You normally have green, red, yellow, and a red curry. It's a very complicated name starting with them. But the yellow and the masamar, the other curry, they are not really indigenous to Thailand. Green and red are much more Thai curries. Now, what's interesting is very often I don't get to go to Thai restaurants and eat the curries there because they always have fish. And that's a big challenge for me because I don't even eat fish. What I did, instead of trying to figure out how to make the Thai curry paste at home, is I went and I explored different grocery stores nearby to see which have the best Thai curry paste. So what's interesting is now even your local grocery stores or specialized grocery stores always have paste. I would recommend you go out and buy it. The one I use is extremely popular. It's called Maestri. I always check the ingredients because it just depends upon what your food preferences are, what it is that you like. This one does not have any fish, which I found very happy. But the thing you need to be really, really, really careful is the Thai food is so spicy that never, never, never follow the instructions. If you ever follow the instructions, your tongue's going to be out of action for a very, very long time. In fact, out here it says to use 4 tablespoons for 1 cup coconut. I use 1 tablespoon for 1 can coconut. So let's just start that off. What you do is you start your burner on a high, put a little bit of oil in it, just a dash. And top it up with 1 tablespoon of curry. It is not as strongly flavored as a lot of the things you get in the shop, but trust me, for the spice level, you don't want to go more than that. And give it a stir. What's interesting about when you're cooking any spice and you're actually cooking anything in oil, when you first put in your paste in oil, it will never it always looks a little bit, it doesn't coagulate. But when you know that your spice or your paste is well cooked, it coagulates. Like if you take a look at this right now, the spice is getting all over, it's sticking, but soon in a little bit it will be coagulated. I'm going going to do this on a medium heat because it's an electrical stove. If you have a gas stove, go ahead and keep it high. It doesn't matter. Okay, while this is going on, I'm going to start with the peanut butter. Now this peanut butter is potent. I would recommend you make it in small portions because otherwise you just spoon it up. You don't wait for a dip, you don't wait for some crudettes, nothing. You just spoon it. So make a little bit of it, enjoy it, or give it away. It's really heavy. Okay, this is good. For the peanut butter, what we do, is again, we take a little bit of oil, just a dash. I'm going to make half a cup of peanut butter right now. That you're going to use half a cup of peanut butter. It's going to make around 1 cup of sauce. Now the kind of peanut butter I use to make this sauce is, it's just regular peanut butter. I'm using this one organic brand. It doesn't matter what you use. The only thing you need to make sure is it doesn't have emulsifiers in it. Like when you open your jar, you should be able to see a little bit of oil floating on it. Let me put that on. And cook your peanut butter on really low. So you take that and then you take 1 tablespoon of garlic and ginger. Peanut sauce actually has garlic and ginger. There are 3-4 different methods of making peanut sauce. This is the one I use. A really simple method, if you don't want to take so much problem, is you take like red curry paste and you add it to your peanut butter and you're all set. And I've started cooking the ginger and garlic. Meanwhile, you don't need to cook this curry paste much. See, if you look at it now, if you see the difference, it's all sort of like coagulating together. It's not spreading all over the bottom. We go ahead and we add, this is so easy. You add a whole can of any regular coconut milk to it. You give it a nice stir. Initially, the paste doesn't mix in so well, but once it starts heating up, it mixes in really well. So that's really easy. Now, in our Thai curry, we're going to basically have a bunch of vegetables in a curry. I just showed you how to make the curry sauce. It's done. The vegetables you use, you can frankly use almost anything you like. Anything, it works. Whatever you have in your freezer, all you need is a couple of cans of Thai paste and of coconut, and you can use whatever you have to make this fabulous, fabulous meal. Okay, I'm going to let this cook. Let me tell you a little bit about the fruits and vegetables I have. I have zucchini, carrots, snap peas, red pepper. The shallots I'm going to use for a different dish. You don't really need to add Thai basil, but I'm going to put some in. Now, Thai basil is actually quite different from the basil we have. And one of the basic ways you can make out the difference is Thai basil normally has a red stem. Regular basil has a green stem. I'm going to use broccoli. And there are a couple of vegetables I really enjoy in my curries, which I actually don't get fresh easily, but I really like them in a curry. So this is a water chestnut and some baby corn. I don't know if you have a Asian supermarket close to you, but if you do and you can find one, it's such a pleasure, it's such an experience, the variety of vegetables, of fruits, of cans, it's amazing. So I'm going to add all of this just as soon as my Thai curry starts bubbling. The coconut milk starts bubbling a bit. I'm actually going to go ahead and make this medium. While this is going on, the other thing we could do while we're waiting for these to cook a little bit is start with our rice. Now, Thai food is normally served with jasmine rice, which is actually very, very, very different from basmati rice, which is something that you use in Asia or Japanese rice, which is very different again. So again, a lot of the ingredients for the Thai food, I'm sorry, you're going to have to find in a specialized grocery store. They're just not available. Now, Jasmine rice, if you go in, what's really good about these stores nowadays is a lot of stuff is actually in English. So if you spend your time, you can find it. Jasmine rice actually requires, it's a sticky rice, and it requires very little water. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 1 cup of rice and keep it in a pan. I'm going to wash this and be right back. And I'm back. So as I was saying, for jasmine rice, you wash it. The way you wash it is you just rinse it with cold water a few times. And then you measure the water you take. So this is 1 cup rice, and with this, I'm going to take 1 cup and around a 1/4 cup more. That's it. That's normally a lot less water than you normally have in rice. And what we're going to do is you want to make sure that it's not sticking to the edges. Keep it on thick. We cover it and put it on high till the water gets to a rolling boil. Okay. You can smell this Thai. You can totally smell the green curry smell now. And I love the taste of basil, so I actually leave it in because I like to chew on it if it comes in my food. You could actually just take it out and not even put it in. Okay, now this is really hot, so we're going to go ahead and add our vegetables. What I like to do is add the vegetables which are the hardest first, but it's really fine. I just don't add the tofu immediately because when I'm making vegetarian, I add tofu to it. So I'm just going to go ahead and add everything except the lemon and the scallions. Give it a good stir. Cover it, let it be. We should cut the tofu for this now. But meanwhile, the the garlic is cooked a bit. So for this peanut sauce, you actually don't even really need to cook it. I like to cook it because it stays a bit longer, so it can stay in my fridge a bit longer if I wanted it to. Then I'm going to go ahead and add a 1/2 cup of peanut butter, regular peanut butter. This is salted. I'm a big fan of peanut butter. I mean, it's something that's sort of because of all the allergies people don't use. And I haven't tried it yet, but I guess if you have somebody in your house who's allergic to peanut, you might want to try this with soy butter. It might just come out nice. I mean, unless you try, you never know, right? Then we're going to go ahead and add a tablespoon of soy sauce. Actually, 1.5 tablespoons. I like the flavor of soy. 1.5 tablespoons of sriracha. Sriracha is a really interesting story. It was started by an immigrant in California, US, who didn't find any hot sauce that he liked enough. So he made one for himself. I find these kind of stories very inspiring. It is probably the most popular hot sauce in the US at the moment. I'm going to clean up a little bit and be right back. And I'm back. We're going to go ahead and add 1 teaspoon of sugar. I'm just using brown sugar because that's what I'm using in some other recipes today. And a mug of water. I'm just going to get some water. You don't need a whole cup. 1/2 cup is fine. If you want it more liquidy, you can. I want it more liquidy, so I'm going to put 3/4 of a cup. use a whisk and give it a good stir. I love whisks, you know, they just mix things in so well. Now with peanut butter, you can just taste it to see if you want some other flavoring to it, because everybody has a slightly different palate. There. That's nicely mixed in. Once it just starts bubbling a teeny tiny bit, I'm going to leave it there. I'm just going to dip my finger. I want a little more sugar in this. So this rice is boiling, so we make it low, really low, for another 5 minutes. I'm going to make that 2 teaspoons of sugar. Perfect. And I'm going to turn it off. It's done. It's ready. You can make it more spicy or less spicy as you like it. I'm going to actually take it off that because I don't want it to keep cooking. I'm just going to cover it and set it aside. We needed to cut, oh, I forgot to add the stuff from the can. So I'm going to add some water chestnuts and some baby corn. I love baby corn. I don't really know whether baby corn is actually a different variety of corn or is it just like the baby version of regular corn. I think it's a different variety. Great. I'm going to cut the tofu for this and add that next. Now, in today's show, we are using 2 tofus, and actually, let's go ahead and prepare the other one. We're going to be making fried tofu. I'm going to make 2 separate appetizers with the same ingredients. They just look very different, and actually, they taste pretty different too. For the appetizer, I use firm tofu. Now, if you ever want to fry tofu, it's better to use firm. If you want to actually just, it depends what kind of tofu you like. I personally, in my dishes, I like a soft tofu. So I'm using the soft tofu for the curry and a firm tofu for the frying. So what you do is you take this and you take some paper rolls. You have to take a bunch of it. Now, when you're frying, oil does not do well with water. So you sort of need to drain the tofu of water. So you take it, and the way I do it is I just keep wrapping it. And then I'll put another one. Then you keep it and you just put it under some weight. So I'm just going to put it under the can of baby corn. Just a little bit of weight. And we're done with this tofu. And let's cut the tofu for the green sauce. We don't need this whole thing because there's so many vegetables. So I'm just going to use half of it. Now, one of the tricks of cutting things which look perfectly symmetrical is you cut in halves. So you cut in half, you flip it, then you cut it in half, half, half. And this I want to do 3 ways because of the shape. Okay, perfect. I'm going to go ahead and add this. This looks and smells so good. This is like a perfect meal for a summer's day. You have all your fresh vegetables. And I mean, if you just look at it, it's beautiful. We're going to let this cook for another maybe 5 minutes and turn it off. The last thing you want to do is overcook a Thai curry because the vegetables need a little crunch to them. You don't want them to be soggy. So we're just going to leave this for 5 minutes and then turn it off. It's ready. And the rice, it's looking good. In another minute or so, I'm going to just turn the heat off and let it cook by itself. So our appetizer, in our appetizer, the tofu is pressed. We're going to fry it next. We're going to cover it and fry it. We coat it with a mixture of rice flour and corn flour. I'll show you how to do it. It sounds complicated. It's super simple. And we have that with our yummy peanut sauce. We're going to have, for our main dish, it's ready. Let's go ahead and make a dessert now. This dessert It's so delicious, but yet it's so simple. All you do is you turn your gas on, make it like maybe medium, and we add half a can of coconut milk to it. And then we're going to add, I'm doing teaspoons, I'm going to add around 5 teaspoons of sugar to it. Brown sugar, use brown sugar for this, it tastes better. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is actually a lot of fun because what happens is in this, when you're mixing it in, when you're stirring it in, it gives you the most beautiful shapes and textures and designs. The white and the brown mixing together, and the color changes. So the fruits we're going to put in here are lychee. It's a lychee nut. It's this fruit which is found in Southeast Asia, and it is delicious. We're going to leave this and let it get hot and cut our fruits till then. You just take a regular ripe banana, peel it, clean your workspace. Make sure your workspace is not very messy when you're cooking. You have to keep cleaning, you know. You can never really cook properly otherwise. One flavor mingles into another, and when you do it on purpose, it's fine. But if you suddenly mingle like tofu with banana, not quite on. You cut it, I normally do it like this. And you cut it into 2-inch pieces. Set it aside and get a can of lychee. Now, lychee is very difficult to find in season. The can works just fine. It's very tasty. So I'm going to take around maybe 4 lychees. This is so good. You can actually use a knife to cut it, but I find cooking to be very tactile, and I like the tactile nature of it. So I'm just going to use my hands and tear it apart. Tear it into whatever size pieces you like. If you've never tried a lychee in your life, find a can somewhere. It is the most delicious fruit. And you have many varieties of lychees, but the best variety I've had is something called a seedless lychee. We happened upon this small place in India which had these trees which looked like coniferous trees, almost like a Christmas tree, and they had so many lychees on them, and we thought they're fake. We thought they're doing a movie shoot there and they put these lychees for fake, but they were real and they had no seed. Okay, this smells done. This is good. It's all set, and we turn it off and we're set. Off. I'm going to actually move this from here too. I'm going to move it off a little bit because I don't want it to keep cooking. I'll change places with this and this. The rice is on and this is on. Let's give this another stir. Oh, this is hot. Now, for this dessert, you can put whatever fruit you want. I think mango would be a really good option. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put the lychee first because the banana cooks very easily. I don't really want to cook the banana. So I'm going to put in the lychee. Give it a stir. And I'm going to turn the heat off. You can eat this dessert hot or cold. So off. I'm going to let it sit for a minute and then I'm going to add the bananas and take it off the fire. So we're done. The rice is done, tofu. Let's start with the iced tea. We haven't done the iced tea yet. Now, Thai iced tea is not really made with it's made with black tea, but the spices in it are very specific. And again, that is not something you'll find in your local store. the best way to go is to find something which is actually called Thai tea, Thai iced tea. So what you do is you take it. Now, the flavor is quite subtle. It's strong but subtle. So you need to put around 2 teaspoons of tea to every cup of water. So this is around a 4 cup. So I'm going to put in a good 6 or 7 spoons of tea. I think that's enough. This is more than a teaspoon. And I'm going to add some boiling water. You can already see the color come up. Thai iced tea has a very orange sort of color to it. It's very pretty. The other thing you add to this is, believe it or not, condensed milk. I'm constantly amazed at how much condensed milk is used in different cultures. You know, it's like one of those things that you think belong to your country alone, like butter. In India, we thought butter is ours. It's actually Italian. But condensed milk, like Indians think it's theirs. Russians think it's theirs. French use it too. I mean, Moroccans use it. It's like, it's amazing. So I'm just going to make this much, and I'm going to let it steep for a bit. And this smells good. I'm going to add my bananas to this and take it off the fire because I don't want my bananas to overcook. This is done. This is very nicely done. So we're just going to cover it and leave it. And I'm going to clean up a little bit and be right back. And I'm back. I forgot to add around half a spoon, less than, very little. You might not even need it, but I like my food a little bit salty. Just half a teaspoon of salt in my green curry. It's better to add it before you add the vegetables because this way you don't have to mush your vegetables around when you're trying to stir it in. Now, the only thing really left for us to do is the appetizer now. I'm going to turn the rice off too and let it sit there and cook by itself. This is sticky rice. You'll see the texture is very different. So for the tofu, we're going to have to deep fry it. So let's just get the oil hot while we're getting everything else prepared. Deep frying can be a little bit scary, but it's really not that bad. You have to make sure your pan has enough oil in it. You turn it on and you let it sit. Do not, in something like this, touch the handles once it's hot. It's really, really, really hot. For our appetizer, we're also going to use scallions. So I'm going to go ahead and chop these. I love scallions. And I love cutting them actually. It's a lot of fun cutting them. You start off with the edges. At the edges, I go really fine because this part is really dense. Dense as in like mass dense. And when I get to the outer part, I make it just slightly bigger. So Thailand, the name Thailand actually comes from the indigenous Thai people. There's a culture. It used to be called Siam earlier, which has a very complicated meaning. So we're going to leave this aside. The next thing we do is take our tofu, which has, you have to keep it for 20 minutes. You open the tofu out. If you feel it, it's quite dry. Now, typically if you go to a Thai restaurant, when they do fried tofu, they do it in these triangular shapes. So I'm going to make exactly that to show you how easy it is. But what I like to do is this. Just watch. You cut the tofu into small squares. Again, cutting by the halves. It's not an OCD thing. It's just that it looks prettier. And then we take a plate. You take rice flour. The proportion you'll take rice flour and corn flour is 2 rice as to 1 corn flour. So it doesn't matter what measure you use, just make it 2 as to 1. So 1. You know, I don't think there's a neat way of flouring anything. I don't think it exists. But again, that's really not a problem because it's fun getting messy with food. And corn flour. It's just any cornstarch. Cornstarch, sorry, if I was saying corn flour, it's not corn flour, it's cornstarch. I've never tried this with tapioca starch, but tapioca starch is something which is very common in the Thailand too. Basically, the rice will give it the crunch because I don't know if you've ever used rice flour before, but rice flour is something that really becomes very crispy when fried. And the starch is what will sort of bind it together. Otherwise, it will just, spread all over, especially when you're frying it. Okay, this is not hot. You can, oil sizzles when it gets really hot. Okay, I know this is messy, but it's fun. And my hands were washed. You should always, always wash your hands before you start cooking. So you just take your tofu and you wrap it nicely and then you brush it off. This is labor intensive, but it is so yummy. I have a little kid and when I make this for him, he actually comes up to me and he says, "Thank you, Mommy, thank you." And you know, that's an easy thank you. Yeah, as I said, there's no easy way of doing this, but it's fun. It's okay. One way of checking when your oil is done is you drop something in it, and how it reacts to that thing being dropped on it will really tell you. So while we wait for the oil to heat, I'm just going to clean up and be right back. And I'm back. So what I'm going to do is for the second appetizer, we need a pan and we're going to put some peanut sauce in it. So I'm just going to take this peanut sauce out. So we'll use the pan. You take out most of it, but you leave some of it behind. I think that's good. And while we're waiting, I'm going to serve up the dessert too. I like this hot and cold, so I'm just going to have it hot right now. I'm going to take extra pieces of lychee. I'm partial to lychee, as you might have guessed. Oops. I'm going to have to wipe that off. And I'm back. And let's dish the Thai curry. I'm going to actually serve the rice first. It just smells perfect. Now, if you try to lift the rice, it's not that easy to pull out. It's really sticky. So you need to get down. And some curry. I washed my spoon. I want to make sure I get like some of every vegetable there. When you garnish this, it looks really pretty with some orange or some peeled carrots, but sometimes you need specialized knives for that. That's good. You can always take seconds. let's check. I'm going to actually drop a little bit of rice in it. Fried rice tastes so good. Normally, what we eat as fried rice is not really fried rice, but it's almost there. It's not quite. Yeah, we can risk it. So when you're frying stuff, what you need to do is prepare a plate nearby. So you take the plate. I'm going to just put it here, right next to it, and you put a really thick sheaf of paper towels on it. You want it to soak up all the extra oil, and you need a really good spatula kind of thing. Now I'm not really going to eat this rice. This is just to test it. I'm going to do the bigger pieces first. You have to make sure it's nicely coated, otherwise it almost looks like it's not, but it is. I used to be very scared about putting things in oil earlier, but it's really not that bad a deal. It's not that big a deal. You just need to be careful not to touch it, obviously. And when you think of boiling oil, you think of all those medieval fights where we're pouring boiling oil down the sides of the castles. It's kind of scary. And oil burns. You have to be careful with water around the oil. If you put a drop of water in the oil, trust me, you'll be badly burned. Not that I recommend you experiment with it, but we're going to fry this till it turns a nice golden brown. They want to stick to each other, so I have to keep them separate. Food I really like, which I'm not making today, is drunken noodles. Drunken noodles is also very, very tasty. Now, a lot of the Asian foods actually require a lot of prep work because you need to cut the vegetables. But I've realized that the prep work only takes time if you're making huge quantities of it. If you make small quantities and you make fresh food and you make it just for like one meal or two meals for one or two people, it really does not take time because you just take like one carrot. I had one zucchini here, I had one carrot. You know, it's how much time can you take to chop a carrot? How much time can you take to chop a zucchini? And if you prep, if you take 20 minutes to prep before you start cooking, you'll find that cooking is a lot easier. It's cooking away, not done yet. This is really the only thing we're waiting for, but frankly, this is my favorite part of this whole meal. This and the dessert, because that's pretty good. So it's interesting. Tofu can be fried just directly, but if you want it to be a bit like a tempura or with a coating, you need to dip it in something. Again, that is there in so many cultures. In Japan, you have tempura. In Thailand, you have fried tofu. In India, you have pakoras, which are phenomenal. And if you have leftover rice, I'll give you a recipe for that. And in Mexico, you have fried chips, refried beans. In so many cultures, you just have fried food. I guess the combination, everywhere in the world, people like sweet, salty, crunchy. Those are like the basic tastes that people enjoy. And chili. What a chili really does is it actually burns cells on your tongue. That's when you feel something is spicy. I've always wondered, like, you know, the people who really eat spice, do they have any taste buds left? This is going well. Frying is actually almost nice sometimes. The only thing is, it's really not healthy, really. I mean, there's no way you can spin it so that it's going to turn out to be healthy in the end. It's not. I maybe fry once in 2 months in my house, not more than that. I'm going to wait for these to be done and be right back. And I'm back. I think these tofus look done. Let me just move this out of the way. It is kind of done, but I'm going to let it go a little bit more because I like it a little bit crispy. Meanwhile, I'm going to get the Thai iced tea ready. Now, the Thai iced tea is actually very simple. So you let it steep for a while. You take a glass, There are 2-3 different ways of doing this. It's essentially tea and condensed milk and ice. So I'm actually going to go fill my glass with ice and be right back. And I'm back. Now, there are 2-3 different ways of doing it. The way I do it is you take condensed milk, and for one glass you need around between 3 and 4 spoons. So I'm just going to put that first. Again, you can make it less or more sweet depending upon how you like it. As you like it. Allow Mr. Shakespeare. Cooking is all about how you like it. Okay, before I pour this, I'm just going to check on my tofu again. Okay, this is done. I'm pulling them out. Keep them a bit separate so that the maximum oil soakage happens. So, not for tofu, but for a lot of the dishes, deep frying is actually considered healthier than shallow frying. And the reason for that is in deep frying, only the outside gets cooked with oil. In shallow frying, the oil sort of goes inside. Now, in this, I'm going to do one at a time because, as I said, it's easy, but you don't want to risk it. This is not a dish you make with kids. I do a lot of cooking with my kid, and I let him help me with a lot of stuff. So like with the peanut butter, I might let him stir. But frying, he's out of the kitchen. You find the gaps and you put it in. In India, we have this one dish called bada, and that I still don't have the guts to do. You basically take a little flour, like a bread flour in your hand. You make a flat, and this is like falling apart. You take it, and you're supposed to put it in the oil like that. I'm not going to do that. Not going to do it. Okay, let's get back to the iced tea. So you put in the tea, you pour on top. You can actually serve it like this. I love like the different designs it gets. It looks like a piece of modern art. But to drink it, what you really need to do, you can take a fresh spoon for that. I'm just going to use this. Why waste condensed milk? And you just stir it. I'm going to let some of the condensed milk stay on the side. I think it looks so pretty. I'm all into modern art. And hey, as we keep saying, cooking's an art. Let's mix it with modern art. It's really, really good. Now, when we're dishing up the tofu, there are 2 ways you can dish it up. You can just serve your tofu. I'm going to make a tofu butterfly. Put a little bit of peanut sauce on it, on the side of it actually, to dip. And I'll show you what I'm going to do with other. That is my favorite dish. Frying takes its own sweet time. So I'm going to let these things fry, take a break, and be right back. And I'm back. This looks just about done. I know it looks a little bit pale, but it's crunchy, and you don't want to overdo it because these pieces are small, so they're very well floured. And if you overcook it, they become a bit tough. So you take it out and you drain it. So this particular recipe is totally invented. It's just because I like all these things that it's so yum. Okay, I'm going to turn this off, not touch it, move this out of the way, and I'm going to take my pan off the peanut sauce, and I'm going to put it on. I'll make it high because I want it to be a little bit hot. You don't really need it hot either. But I prefer it. You don't have to do it because your tofu is already hot. This is one dish you sort of need to do just before your guests are coming or just before you're eating, because it won't taste so good cold. It doesn't taste bad, but it tastes better when it's hot. I mean, there are levels, right? You make it, and then you have some of it when it's hot, and then you say it's fried, I shouldn't eat some more. And then you pick at it. It's like, they say that bites don't have calories. If you don't serve yourself in a plate, then it doesn't have any calories. It's heating up. We're gonna add the scallions to this and the tofu and just whip it up and then serve and eat it. Thailand is really famous for its beaches, and one of the reasons is a big part of the country sort of looks like a funnel, and when both sides are on the ocean and they're beautiful. I haven't been to any Thai beaches, but of course, like everybody, you've probably seen photos thanks to Facebook if nothing else. And Thai massage is also very good, which is actually very different because they sort of like, you keep your clothes on, they take you and they just bend you in different shapes, and it's pretty interesting. Okay, this is getting hot. I'm going to go ahead and add all the scallions. You can add less scallions if you want, spring onions, scallions, whatever you call them, but I like a lot of it. Yeah, using the same spoon, and you sort of mush it in with the peanut sauce. I actually want this part to be a little hotter, so I'm going to add just a dash of sriracha and a little bit of soy. I like my food really spicy, and I feel like with my peanut sauce versus this, I want this to be a little bit hotter. Okay, and I'm not really cooking this, I'm just sort of mixing it. And I'm not going to touch this tofu. I'm going to take out the other two pieces and just pour it in. I don't have any wish to burn my hands. It's really, really hot, and don't put it in your mouth immediately, even if you can pick it up. It's really hot. There, perfect. I'm going to turn it off. There, it's done, and I'm going to dish it up in an appetizer plate. And there we have it, the complete meal. As you saw, it was very easy to make. You start off with your tofu appetizers, you go ahead with your green curry and jasmine rice, you have your banana and lychee in coconut milk, and you top it off with Thai iced tea. Bon appetit!